Alright, hold on. Let's try this.
हाँ
How about now?
ठीक है हो गई हो गई
Okay, or Tabby की आ रही है? Tabby, say something.
Wait a second. हाँ okay you are audible too.
Okay, you can hear both, right?
Fayyaz, it's your choice if you want to stick around, but we're going to be doing that Q&A here.
Yeah, I got your message. Unfortunately, yeah, I would stay around, but I'll just be on my audio because I'll be working. So I'll just plug in my earphone somewhere else.
Okay, it's stuff you've already done, but it's your choice.
All right.
So Abbas is one of the interviewers on my Abbas. He's just going to be listening. It's his choice.
Yeah, I'll just go quickly check out a break outro and just come back.
Okay, sounds good.
Alright, let's start as soon as possible. Let's join in. Alright, let's admit everyone who are joining in, and we'll remind everyone to mics as this is going. Mute for all, except everyone is joining in slowly. That's great. And we're gonna wait in just 5 more minutes and we'll begin the session. We're just gonna begin in a few, just waiting for more people to join. It's a lot of people. For those that can't join, they can always watch it on Facebook Live. And I'll also be helping out doing Instagram Live too. Alright, we got mostly everyone in. All right, good morning. My name is Dr. Hamza Farouk, and today we have a very special guest with us today from Resiyay. As a pleasure, it has always been a pleasure to see you guys, to answer your questions, to interact with each other. But it's almost the end of the year. All right, we're hitting January point, December's ending, and for a little bit, I just want to before we begin the session, I just want to say is thank you. Thank you for supporting our platform. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you for being able to help voice my opinion. And I've seen that it has helped a lot of you. And it's always great to get those text messages later on, and get good reviews. So without you guys, none of this would have been possible. And thank you for Excemy Medical as well. The whole team. I'm not doing it alone. It's always been the team behind my back, and it's been a pleasure to be working with them as well. So without further delay, let me introduce to you my guest. She is the founder of Resiyay, Tabby Fayyaz. All right, Tabby, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Dr. Hamza.
Good morning. Have you had your cup of coffee yet?
Unfortunately, the big sign behind me, today my time is.
That's always it. So Tabby, for those of you that don't know about, your platform, for who you are, could you give us a little introduction about yourself?
Sure, absolutely. So Resiyay came into the picture when I applied for residency. And I saw that there were a lot of platforms that were taking they were charging a lot for services that should be free. So a bit of my background, I did all my education in the US, my premed, in Kansas, and then I had to finish my clinical psychology in school, Windsor University, as joining the platform. So being from here, I'm very familiar with the process. When I saw that people were doing this, I decided to put together this, learn more about it. There's the website, there's the PowerPoints, that we are very into individuals. Let's come together. Let's put the resources that we need and give ourselves that chance towards residency, and not be fed to people who just hungry for her money. That's big.
That's true. That's true. Why do we do what we do? It's not for fame. It's not for money. We do it so we can help people, right?
Absolutely.
So you told us about your platform and why you did it. Give us a little professional introduction about yourself, who you are, how many exams you have done so far, and what made you get into the USMLE pathway.
All right. That's a very fun question. To talk about my life. So who I am, like I said, I did all my education here. My undergraduate was in neuroscience from the University of Texas at Dallas. Then I pursued medical school. So naturally, being here, you have to go through the USMLE pathway. There aren't any other options. That led me to that, pursuing residency in neurology. So I will request everybody in the audience today to keep me in your prayers. And aside from that, my family's from Lahore, so I think that's the Pakistani background. But we're up in Dallas. And I will talk much, much more. But right now, we're trying to let everybody wake up.
Everyone's still asleep, let me tell you that.
Yeah.
But let's get back part. All right, the USMLE. In my previous session, we talked about that, but we wanted it in which you come in. So I believe you have a slideshow for everyone,
Yeah.
and we also posted that online on the group as well. Those who have registered, they have a copy of it. And anyone who has any questions, they can always post down below. I will try to answer, or Tabby will try to answer those questions. And you can even comment on Facebook, Instagram, and on Zoom as well. for those who have joined the session.
All right, so would you like me to go ahead and begin?
Yes, please.
Alrighty, guys. So the way I want to organize today is we're going to talk about three things that I believe are very important. As I share my Zoom screen, you have the same presentation in front of you. The Excemy medical team and Dr. Hamza did a very good job of sharing that with everybody. Follow along with me. First, we're going to talk about professionalism in medicine, which is a very important topic. Then a little bit of USMLE preparation, and then about residency application. All of the information is in front of you. I'm not going to try to read off the slide, but I do want to highlight some important things. So here we start. The presentation starts off with this. There is a background on myself. Welcome to go through that in your free time. I want to first highlight these helpful websites. Coursera is extremely helpful in understanding the US medical system. All of these courses are free. I just pulled out a few courses that I think are very helpful. Aside from those listed, one of them that's very important is the social determinants of health. That has been a big issue in residency interviews this cycle, and I'm assuming it's only going to grow. So typically it's brought up with what discrepancies have you noticed in healthcare in the USA? So in order for you to answer that, you have to first understand what the social determinants of health. So I would encourage you to go through that. Duolingo, very helpful for learning different languages. Spanish is very commonly spoken here now. Grammarly is a hit and miss. It's good if you're starting off. It's good guidance, but you do have to be careful with it. Last I want to mention is Notion. So I was recently told about this. It's wonderful for making a list of all the tasks that you have to do for all busy individuals. So certainly go through that and see if it can be helpful for you. Then this is all of the social media for Resiyay. So the website, Instagram is the main social media page for us. That's where all the updates go. I highly encourage you to follow us there. If you are thinking about applying next year for Match, I currently have WhatsApp groups that are active. So go ahead and join. We're more than happy to welcome you guys in. Just get a feel for yourself. What kind of questions are being discussed? What does it feel to go through residency application? And then, of course, we have Excemy Medical, very grateful for that. Inside the Match and the I Am Journey are two platforms that are heavily represented on Twitter that talk a lot about the Match, as the name suggests. Definitely follow them, so they will also give you good guidance. After this is briefly everything that we're trying to cover. I will still try to go over as quickly as I can so that we can take questions and I can address any concerns we have today. First off, let's just talk about professional profiles. Dr. Hamza, how important do you think professional profile is?
It is very important how you present yourself, how you're able to, it's not even you as a person, right? So if you're going into any profession, it's not even a medical profession, any profession, engineering, dentistry, whatever, you need to be able to present yourself. And what's written there is because obviously if we're talking one-on-one, I don't know you as a person, I don't know who you are, what you do. I'm going to be looking at what's written on your paper. If I see, oh, everything is organized, it's neat, and you've listed down everything, it's very important.
I absolutely agree with you on that. Let's take a moment, Dr. Hamza, if possible. I believe we have to hit the record button.
Yes, we do. We can record it right there.
Start off with that.
Here, I'll do that. Record on this computer. All right.
Recording in progress. All right, so we're starting off just like Dr. Hamza mentioned, professional profile, extremely important. These are some options. I believe LinkedIn is still the most traditional way of connecting with people. So certainly have the other profiles, but certainly do LinkedIn as well. And anything that's in a different color, it's a hyperlink. So it's easier for you guys. You can just jump straight onto them and learn more about it. So after you make your professional profile, the next question is, how do I communicate? I will tell you, everybody in the audience, the way you communicate with somebody can make it or break it for you. So here I have a whole bunch of text, but let's just focus on the pictures. In the middle, I have an example email of how you should write to different individuals. Of course, the content will differ, but generally a greeting, what is it that you're asking for, very direct, very concise, appreciate the person's time, and then wrap it up with regards and other options. One link that I have put in where it says more options, if you click that, it's a wonderful article that gives you other greetings that you can put in. So if you don't want to use the same regards or the kindly, this and that, it'll definitely walk you through that. Now on the right of the screen, we have one example. And so these are actual text messages I received. One example. And then I have an example on the bottom.
So these are actual messages you actually received in the past.
So they say my name. They were both for the same purpose, to be added to the group. As you can see, the message on the top received very good feedback from me. The message on the bottom, unfortunately, guys, please don't use your informal English in these professional platforms. If that is something you're uncomfortable with, if you're uncomfortable with proper English, I understand. I'm not here to judge you for that. And I will walk you through how to improve that as well. But just be mindful. You don't know who the other person on the side is. You don't know who their connections are. So if you're respectful, if you're professional, that's only going to open doors for you. With that being said, let us go through, okay, so how do I improve my English? What do I do? Before that, understand you're applying for a U.S. medical residency. You're applying for U.S. medical licensing exams. You have to familiarize yourself with the English spoken here. For that, if you need to work on your accent, if you need to work on your grammar, I highly suggest it. I'm not saying that doors will close on you because of your accent or vocabulary, but doors will open for you if you can acclimate yourself to how language is spoken here. In order to do that, I have a few links. English video or short English is very good. If you're a podcast individual, the National Public Radio, just listen to how these people speak. Movies, my personal favorite. You can always go through that and then more information on the bottom. Moving forward, there is one scholarship that I recently found out about. It's called the Fulbright Scholarship. Depends on the region. However, if you do qualify for it, they pay for your master's, and with that they give you a stipend to use as well that covers your expenses of living. Certainly look into that. If you do want to come to the US, that is an option that will pay for you, and you will get a master's out of it. That's just good for you as a physician. And I will update this one more as we go through. I'm moving forward. All right, so we're done with the professionalism part. Now we're going to jump into the big USMLE.
Oh.
So Dr. Hamza, what do you think about the number that we have posted on the slide about the cost?
I think you're just simplifying it. I think I've spent more than that in my days, and the amount, because I mean, in the it will be worth it. But, even as an AMG, there's a lot of doctors that go into medical debt, to be honest, and these prices are what they are. But you have to pay them. There's no way around it, And I've told people this before as well. It's better to get the original resources, in my opinion, than to get an old version or a copy of a version, because some of them do not have all the details that you need to properly study for the step exams.
I could not agree more with that. I understand the financial side of it. So if you're early in your preparation, go ahead and use those PDFs. But when you have decided a test date, certainly go with the live version, primarily speaking for your world, because that is the main Q bank. I know it's costly, but it will do wonders for your score. And there are people who have not had to use it, and that's fine. But majority, I will highly encourage that you go through your world. So on the left, what you can see is I put some links on how to register for these exams. What is NBME? NBME does step 1 and step 2. FSMB does step 3, so 2 different entities. You have to know that, because step 3, when you're done with step 3, you may actually practice with a medical license in the US. So it is a different entity. Now, underneath that, I have the various support groups. So Resiyay is here to help you through that. There's also F1 Doctors. It's a free program, peer-to-peer membership. And then there is another group called UPNA, YPC group. You'll have to send a request, it's Facebook group, they'll add you. And a lot of times people connect with mentors. Once you're on the platform, you'll see how it's run. But this is just a big overview of how to manage your finances, or what numbers are we looking at for the USMLE journey. Residency application I will speak about later. That's a different set of money. This is just for step 1, 2, and 3. So moving forward, we'll cover the big one, USMLE Step 1. Everybody will have their own approach to it. I will not encourage this or that. I'm just simply stating that these are the free resources. You should certainly take them to advantage. Divine Intervention Podcast. It even breaks down, he has a list on how to use his podcast. So very user-friendly. Divine's programs, his preparation programs are very pricey, but you certainly don't have to sign up for them. You can just use the free podcast. Then I have a little bit of information on how to register and the overall information. But I wanted to jump more towards step 2. So this one, I want to share another resource with you guys. So I will stop my share of this and share a different screen. Give me one moment, guys, as I switch screens. I will certainly take questions on all of this as soon as I go through as much of this as I can. All right, so this is a resource. On your PowerPoint presentation, this is the link that says notes and has an asterisk next to it. So if you open that link, it's something called the REMS drive. REMS is short for, it's a different language, but short for repetition is the mother of all learning. So what you see here in this drive is we have a folder for patient presentation. It's very useful for when you do US clinical experience. The residency folder is being put together currently. Shelf exams, if you're in the US, if you're Caribbean, that's full. Step 2 notes, and then step 3. But just on the main screen, I want to bring our attention to CKC. Together, walk you through how you can organize yourself for step 2 CK. Now that step 1 is pass fail, there's a lot of emphasis on step 2. You certainly do have to do well on it and try your best.
Speaking of which, Dr. Tabby, sorry to interrupt. Since we're at that point, a lot of people, they still have questions about, step 1 being pass or fail. And is that going to still affect, like, should they be studying more about step 1 to be able, or should they focus more on step 2 now? Because step 1 has been pass or fail. What is your input about that?
Guys, scores will always matter. That is just the honest truth. Yes, there are particular situations. So I personally interview people for residency, and a lot of my candidates are foreign medical graduates. So we have covered interesting situations where there are attempts, there are gaps. That's understandable. However, do try to get the best score that you can, and also try to cover step 1 in your medical school as soon as you're done with your basic sciences, if you can. Don't leave it off till the end. A lot of that information you'll forget. What do you think, Dr. Hamza?
I think you're absolutely right. My only input is that you can't really be focusing on step 2 if you don't know step 1. So it's the same amount of studying and effort you have to put into it, even if it's pass or fail. Because that knowledge that you learn from step 1, it's going to help you in your clinicals as well. Everything is made from base, everything is connected. You can't memorize the step exams designed, in my opinion, out not memorization. It's, what's the word for it? I'm blacking out. it was made on understanding the concepts. Questions may change. They're not going to put the same questions on there. Some might, but the concept remains the same. If you understand the concept, then you'll be able to get through the step exams, in my opinion.
Absolutely agree. Also, on the same note, a lot of the experiences, they demand that you have cleared step one.
Yeah.
So you all have that in mind. Thank you for bringing that. That's a wonderful point. In fact, when I asked my current residency applicants if they had advice for the people listening to us today, the students listening to us today, they said, Dr. Tabby, just emphasize, take step 1 and 2 during your medical school if you can.
Exactly.
If we could go back, that's the one thing we would change.
If I knew more about that, then I would have obviously taken it way beforehand. But the thing is, even for IMGs, I don't know about Caribbeans or what it is over there, but for especially for people in Pakistan, the schools over there aren't really designed for step exams, so you have to find your own unique, break room on it, and you need to find your own time to be able to focus on the step exams.
I will tell you this, Dr. Hamza. I have not come across a single student who said, well, my school prepared me well for step 1.
That is true.
Maybe there are some small group, very, very small group of school that does that. So a lot of people are in the same boat. You have to be disciplined, and you have to put your focus into it. But with that being said, let us try to get through this so I can take more questions from you guys. One thing I want to highlight on here is if we open the step 2 notes, there's factors and NBME vocabulary Google document that is extremely helpful. So any of the alternative vocabulary and then a lot of the risk factors and vaccines and screening. A lot of this adapted from divine intervention, some from my own experience, some from the experience of others. Certainly just have this open on the side, and that will extremely be very helpful. I promise you that. A little bit more on the drive, just wanted to share one more thing. So if you want to, curious to know what do these notes look like, let me share that with us. Some of these files are really big, so you do have to download them.
And this is located on your REMS drive, right, Dr. Tabby?
REMS drive. Yes, absolutely. They're all in the REMS drive. They will download as PDF. So if you need to download it and just highlight it in Adobe, definitely annotate it just like you would annotate first aid. So the internal medicine notes. Oops. So if I bring out the table of contents, the note comes with a table of content. So you can quickly just go over what section you need to go through. But the general layout, you will have the text on the left, and then you would have any of the diagrams on the right. In internal medicine, obviously, it will cover all of the internal medicine concepts. Then you go to step 2. So step 2 is the big chunky notes, 339 pages. But I have a small table of contents, similar concept. If you open up the table of contents, I'll walk you through everything, which is general, cardiology, respiratory, you name it. It's in the notes. I have 2 PDFs on the side for ophthalmology and one eye and another for just general, but it's also in the step 2. So this is basically the notes. Now we'll go back to the PowerPoint presentation and try to cover that.
Obviously, if you guys have any questions, you can comment on our page, also on Instagram Live, so you can send me a comment there. And for those who are with us during the session, during the Zoom session, then you guys can also put in your question chat box as well.
Yes, absolutely. As soon as we'll take up any questions. This brings us back to the PowerPoint that Dr. Hamza and Excemy Medical very kindly shared in the chat. So we're on the step 2 slide. So this notes is what takes you to REMS drive. and all the other very easy to read. If you're so encouraged to also pursue reading, there's a lot of information on that as well. Dr. Hamza, would you like to comment on step 3?
I will leave that to you. That sounds more of your department on step 3.
For time, for the sake of time, I think I will just leave this slide.
I think most of our viewers are into step 1 and step 2 or about to take it. Yeah.
For sake, I want to just put it in there. As you can see, there's a lot of resources that are being repeated from step 1. So going back to what Dr. Hamza said earlier, if you do a good job in step 1, it's only going to make your journey easier for all of the other steps. Now, with that having said, the next topic is research. So, Dr. Hamza, what do we say about doing research?
Important, but in my opinion, like I've said in the previous session before, is that in my personal opinion, you may have something different from it, but research, if you're taking your step exam, right? um, Focus on your step exam. You will have time to do research. You will have so many opportunities. You just need to be able to connect and send, in my days, a lot of emails to different doctors, professional emails, not like bothering emails, and believe me, don't be disheartened if you don't get responses back sometimes. That happens a lot. But there are a few which are very nice that they will get back. But the whole point of research is that in your time frame, I believe that even after you take step 2, you can always get into research after that as well. And before your residency, you'll have a lot of waiting period, as Dr. Tabby knows, in which you need to constantly do something to fill up your application. But if you get a research in, let's say, your third year of medical school, because I feel like if you're doing research, you need to be interested in it. You need to more on like understand that research is about. I know most of you just want your name in the first publishing authorship or whatever, but research can actually be pretty fun, and you guys will be surprised if you understand the study. What is your opinion, Dr. Tabby?
Absolutely agree. So steps come first, but if you are lucky enough to come across an interesting patient, definitely bug your preceptors. If you're in Pakistan or if you're here in the US, I would really like to write up something on this. If you show initiative, most physicians will appreciate that, and then they will guide you. Secondly, research in your wait time between applying to residency. A minor edit that I would make is when you apply for residency in September, you have to send in your application at that time. So if you're saving research for, okay, let me finish everything and then I'll do it, but make sure that research comes through by September. If it comes after, you can still put it in there and you can say it's pending, all of that, but it's just nicer to have all of your stuff beforehand.
Oh, obviously. And one more question, Dr. Tabby. For IMGs, actually, what is, like, I know you mentioned the time and duration of when a person can do research, but most importantly, how can you walk us through the step on how to actually approach for research, and is research important, like if you get it from the USA or from Pakistan or a third world, does that make a difference of where you get it, especially if you're applying for a residency in the US?
Dr. Hamza, I would say that's an interesting question. If you follow my thought process, if you're applying to the US medical residency, any US experience is in your favor. However, it is also understandable that if you were doing your practice in a different country, for example, most of us are placed in Pakistan, if you have published work, if it's in a peer-reviewed journal, or if it's published, it's still research. It's not that it's thrown out the window because it doesn't. So on gives the general comment that participate, take the chances that you can get, Obviously, if you have the opportunity to come to the US, I was told that some people are able to come to the US for electives if your school participates in them. If you can come to the US for an elective and at the same time get some research experience, you're in a really good spot.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And a lot of physicians that you work for, to be honest, I'm currently in to research right now, and it's been totally fun. It's been amazing walking through the steps of randomizations. Unfortunately, under rules and regulation, I cannot release that information of what research I'm doing, and I won't. But it's the whole process of it. If you really get into it and if you understand the research, then it's very fun. And there's some benefits, as Dr. Tabby knows from research programs. There's some benefits in that too, besides getting your name on the paper.
I was fortunate to have a lot of research when I was undergrad, so I have a decent background in it. But again, for those of us, it's a lot. I know we're juggling a lot. We have medical school, then we have USMLE, and then we have research and the finances. So just organize your thought process. I will say, instead of trying to do too many things at once, just make sure whichever step you're going through at that particular time in your life, do a good job at that. Make sure you get through that effectively. And if I had to balance research and scores, I would say that scores still take more value than research. So keep that. Just don't distract yourself trying to do too many things at once.
Obviously, of course, of course.
And you had also mentioned, how do we contact people for research? So remember that professional profile we were talking about earlier. This is where that comes into play. An email you sent, Dr. So and so, these are my intentions, this is what I'm looking for. And if you would like more information, here is my profile. So they can easily look you up.
Yeah. And despite that, what would you say would? How can you get in contact with so and so doctors, with different university programs? Is there some way to contact them? How do I look for an email? Or obviously there shouldn't be a phone number because you wouldn't want to call the doctor directly. That is a bad idea.
I don't encourage that. Yes, so Dr. Hamza, what happens in a lot of these university programs, so in fact, this is something I'm working on right now. We will have more updates on that, on which programs are very friendly for IMG research. But if you know from your own teammates, your seniors, that this program takes IMGs, go to the website, check out their email, and then just email them through that. Most of the time, the emails are visible on the website.
Right. And another thing is how, like, you've done researches, right, Dr. Tabby? How would you go on about topic selection, as a question has come up on that? Does a doctor provide you with it, or is there any way, like, what if I want to do my own research?
It really depends. So if you're going to be joining an institution, they will already have their agenda and their objectives ready, and you will be jumping on to whatever topic they're working on. I believe this question is more geared towards if you're in rotations and you want to write a case report.
Right.
Then you will be encouraged to bring your own topic. So in that case, if you find a patient, if you find it's an atypical presentation, first look them up. There's PubMed. PubMed has a lot of information. Google Scholar, you can see if this topic was discussed before. An even easier process, instead of going through all of that, just talk to your preceptor, talk to your attending. I really noticed this, and I would really like to write more about it. What do you suggest? And if you ask for guidance in the proper way, I believe a lot of people are very receptive to that.
Yeah, obviously, guidance is important. A lot of, if you're in a medical university, people who have done it before, reach out to them. There's a lot of connections to be made. I think in the medical field, a lot of it is about connections as well that gets put in. on, especially if you apply to residency, if you apply to a certain hospital, there's always bonus points in that. It's not everything. Obviously, if you have poor step scores and, that file of yours, I don't think it's going to go up because there's so many people, competing for that position. They're hiring you, right? They should know what's your strong suit, and when they hire you, they don't want, someone that will later on cause some difficulties in the pathway as well.
Absolutely agree with that. On the same note, I would say if your scores, if you have already attempted one of the exams, I don't want you to be disheartened. It is not an impossible process if your scores are not in this perfect range that you believe they should be in. If they're not competitive, I routinely work with candidates. We do mock interviews. People will have scores in the 220s, 30s. They're still getting competitive number of interviews. But it is what your whole profile says. So if I were to rank the importance, your step scores, then any of the other activities that you do, are you a leader at your university? Did you participate any of the extracurriculars? Did you serve underserved areas? If it's truly your passion, I'm just listing a lot of the things that I normally see. Then research is obviously a strong one. Then your letters of recommendation. What do people have to say about your work ethic? So it's really a file in large, but scores first, research, your connections, but that's something I'll certainly discuss more when we talk about the residency interviews. Um, but if you were interested, I do have a link to research opportunities. So that also will give you some more emails or some programs to reach out to. Do we have any more questions on research, Dr. Hamza?
That's what I'm looking through. We have something. So, how many publications should one have for matching, Dr. Tabby?
I will be frank on this platform and I will be honest. Guys, there is no magic formula. But I will tell you, most people who are coming through are coming with 3 to 4 at least. But that's overall. Peer-reviewed journals are difficult to get an article in that because you have to have that set. Some people might have case reports. Some people might have oral presentations at national conferences. So it's an accumulation. But then again, 3 to 4 researches might not guarantee you residency spot. It's really who you are as a whole. I know it's not the answer possibly that you're looking for, but this is the honest answer.
It is what it is. It's a tough world out there, but it's also the circle of life. It's too early for cheesy comments this today.
No, I think we'll keep it very positive. I'm a very positive person. If anybody knows about my journey, I had to go through a lot of hurdles myself. So sitting where I'm sitting today, I can tell you guys, you will get through it. However, if you had to go through any obstacles in your life, what really shows a lot of maturity and growth is what did you do after you went through that difficulty? Did you wake up and become a stronger applicant? And more so, did you become a better physician? That will definitely reflect in your interviews and that will have an impact.
Of course, of course. And that's how we start, from all the hardships that we've been through. But that's the whole point. All this information that we're listing out today, it's for you guys. And so eventually, when you guys come to the steps of, me and Dr. Tabby are, and once we're like seniors, then you guys will be able to pass down this information to people asking you the same thing. So it's good, and that's why we do what we do, right, Dr. Tabby?
Absolutely. We're all here to be a team. So with that being said, I'm going to take us to the next slide because I have a lot more information.
Yes, please. Research is done.
Last bit, my door is always open. So you, Dr. Hamza is kind to share the website. There's an email on there. If you have any follow-up questions, please direct them to Excemy Medical. If you believe they're more appropriate for me, you're welcome to send them to me, and I will try to work through it as much as we can. So moving forward, the other hot topic, U.S. clinical experience.
Ooh.
When do I do it? How do I do it? The when depends on your school. If your school has a system where they do allow electives outside of the U.S., use it. If they don't, inquire for it. Maybe you will be the first person that starts that path for your school. I know numerous candidates from Pakistani schools who say, well, Tabby, you're the first one in my school to apply for U.S. residency. So don't shy away if they don't have that. But going back to how do you apply? So AMA has a link. Then we have virtual rotations, and then the social media platforms. Three of those that I mentioned earlier. They routinely post a lot of opportunities. So currently, Twitter has been a very successful platform for finding new opportunities. If you don't have a Twitter account, highly encourage it. You just have to follow these these platforms, and you'll get an update anytime they post something. The other platform is Instagram, but balance your time between. Also, don't stay on social media so much that you're not paying attention to your school responsibilities. You just have to find that happy balance.
I think that's a give or take, Dr. Tabby.
Yeah, I'm not saying drop everything. And, well, I saw this presentation that I had to do this clinical experience.
Dr. Tabby came on air and literally told us to go on Instagram, Twitter.
No, guys, I'm not encouraging that. You have to be balanced in your life. But these resources are here if you need them. Please go ahead. You were saying something.
Oh no, let's go on to the next slide.
Okay, so then, I made it to the US. I'm in a clinical rotation. What do I do? I'm sure a lot of you guys go through OSCEs at your institutions, which are wonderful. So if your OSCE incorporates SOAP note, great. If it doesn't, what is SOAP note? Subjective, objective, assessment plan. So on the right side, I have a very brief outline of it. But the way we use it in clinical situations here, I know it's a very busy slide. You can go back and read it later. But when you're presenting patients to your attending, you have to present a history of present illness with chief complaint, HPI. And then when you're writing your note, you have to write a SOAP note. So the subjective part, it talks you through how you can write it. There are 3 mnemonics that I really like, and I learned those from someone who actually goes around and trains to successfully go through OSCEs. He used to be a tutor for Step 2C. So this is very helpful information. The first one is OPD, basic onset progress duration. RICRA sounds funny in the beginning, but trust me, once you start it, get a hang of it, you'll never forget it. And then there's Pam Hugs Foss.
Ooh.
Really funny one.
I remember that. I remember doing those.
And it's so helpful. I thought it was so silly when I first learned. I was like, oh, no, I don't remember this. But it's extremely helpful. And then you don't miss anything in the history. So a lot of the physicians here, they'll be understanding of your clinical skills if your examination skills a little need improvement. But you need to make sure your history taking skills are on par. And this is all you have to do. It's nothing complicated. The next slide is objectives, so that's the physical exam. Again, briefly, I wrote down things that you need to consider. And then, all right, so all of that is done. A little bit about that. Now we come to the big guy, residency.
The big, I see numbers on there already, palpitations.
Like I said earlier, so those steps, the figures were for steps. These figures, the reason there is a range is when you apply to residency programs, I put a little screenshot. It depends on how many programs you're applying to, but typically people will spend anywhere from $4,000 to $10,000 on a program application.
Yeah, that seems about right. Maybe more.
Please don't feel overwhelmed. I definitely want to say that. If you feel like you need to plan it, use the ERAS fees calculator. I have the link here. It'll take you directly into how you can manage that and some other components. All right, so we're applying for residency. What do we need?
The big picture.
Go ahead, Dr. Hamza.
No, I was just saying the big picture.
The big picture, yes. I would highly encourage, if you're thinking about applying for next cycle, even for the cycle after that, familiarize yourself with what are these things that I'm about to talk about. It's going to be extremely helpful for you if you have them ready before time. So briefly going over it, unfortunately they charge you for it to release your own scores.
What don't they charge?
That you paid for. Then there is the ECFMG certificate. Later I'll walk you through how we do that. Now MSPE, from my understanding, Pakistani schools, it depends. Some schools provide MSPE, some schools do not. So you'd have to check your institution for that.
So what happens in Pakistan is I don't know about other schools, but from where I graduated, a lot of you guys will get your MSPE after you graduate and submit in your graduation application. And then what they will do is they'll give you MSPE along with 7 other letters that you can use when you apply for residency.
And what are those letters? What do they contain?
7 letters are like, a lot of them are just LORs, dean letters that you can use. Some of them are like personal statements on your performance. It's like another MSPE, but you get, like, for some reason, 3 other letters with that. all saying the same thing, I'm gonna be honest.
They're very comprehensive.
That's what they are. They are, but it is important to get those after you graduate, because EROS is going to ask you about that, and it's going to ask you to submit all that in, to be honest.
Absolutely. My personal suggestion would be any paperwork you get from the school, just make sure you have a digital copy of it, a nice digital copy, scanned copy of it. That would be very helpful. Then we come to LORs. Guys, start early. If you're applying for residency next cycle, so residency application goes in September, start asking for LORs by January, because delays will happen. Of course, if your rotation is in April, then you can't ask for it early. But if these are preceptors that you're familiar with and you know that they will write you letters, then start early. Personal statement is a beast of its own. We'll talk about a little bit about that later. And then professional picture. You see people with their face smiley and all suited out pictures for yourself. Lastly, OET. Dr. Hamza, let's talk about OET. Did you have to go through that?
Ooh, I did not, unfortunately. So I did not, being a USIMG, also taking all my step exams beforehand. I did take a CS a while back, once it was still legible. But now everything has changed. The process has changed. That it's been a while for me. That is requiring OET now. But did you have to go through that, Dr. Tabby? Maybe you can put some insightful details about it.
Absolutely. So even though I'm a USIMG, even though I did all my education here, so because it was a replacement for CS, and I unfortunately did not have to go through CS, I did have to take OET. So it's an occupational English exam. Definitely something you have to prepare for. However, the website itself gives you free tutorials. There's a lot of free resources on there, so definitely you don't have to pay for preparation. But do prepare for it. Don't go into it blindly, even if you're a USIMG. You're not going to a blind thinking, I know English, I'll be fine. If any of us took SAT and ACT back in the day, the English text is very similar to that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, SAT, ACTs, that brings back memories.
The horrors.
The horrors. That's what life is. It's about. I don't think we ever stop taking exams, Dr. Tabby. We gotta keep going.
Okay, Dr. Hamza. We're very happy and we're very optimistic people. We will take exams and we'll do just fine.
That is true. That is true. And if not, then we don't show it when we're crying or in our dark rooms.
It's okay, guys. If you have one of those days, you're welcome to message me. I'm a very full of sunshine kind of person. In the mornings only.
Yeah, do not message Dr. Tabby at a certain time, please.
Mornings is the way to go, guys. Catch me in the morning. So with that, let's jump into it. Who are these people? what are the big names that we keep on hearing? I wanted to make sure that I go through every single agency that you to interact with. ECFMG, very self-explanatory. However, be mindful, there is a process. You do have to get an USMLE ID number or ECID number. Exactly what you need to do to go through. So pick that number early. You need that number even before you apply for step one. So this is, if you were going to do anything today from this whole presentation, and if you know for sure you're going to apply for US residency, I would say go get that number. That's one thing I would say. You can put away your school studies for a little bit and make sure you get that number. The next thing, who is AAMC? Association of American Medical Colleges. These are the people who have the ERAS application, which is the main residency application. NRMP, National Resident Matching Program. So when you're applying to residency, you have to work side by side with two agencies. AAMC puts out the application, NRMP does the match. So NRMP is kind of like the dating profile version of it. It puts together programs and applicants, and then it produces the match data. So there's a lot of information on them as well for your own reference. Moving forward, just a little visual of residency application timeline. If you're thinking about applying next cycle, by June, you would have to buy your token, which is your ticket to start your MyERAS application. And it walks you through. But some of the big things, come August, you might have to participate in supplemental application. The reason I say you might, some specialties participate in it, some specialties do not. Later I have information on how to find out if your specialty does not. But briefly, internal medicine does, if any of us are interested in internal medicine. Then September, you submit your MyERAS, but you also submit your supplemental. What is supplemental? They came up with an idea of, let's allow applicants to signal programs that they're very interested in. So it kind of serves as an extra interest. You don't have to pay for it. It's absolutely free. But there are some tiny, tiny texts that you have to write about a few topics. And later on, I have a PDF of exactly what they're going to ask, so you can familiarize yourself with that. Then comes October to January. That's where Resiyay comes into the picture. So we help with mock interview preparations. I have a platform where people come prepare. You get the link, and you come and you practice with other applicants. If you decide that you need a structured approach, meaning you want someone to help you personalize your answers, then we have a dedicated mock, which is a paid service. So it's with myself, and currently I have 2 mentors. I'll walk you through that information as well. Register for NRMP, you rate the rank order list. Everybody you interviewed with, you're going to say, okay, I'm going to rank you 1, 2, 3, or how many other interviews you had. And then the system does the match. Then comes SOAP. So this is not the SOAP from earlier to subjective objective. This is if you did not match in the primary match, then programs and applicants who didn't match go into like a mini match. But it happens very quickly. There's also information on that later. But this is the timeline that you should have. This is information all the residency specialties participate.
And where can I find this, Dr. Tabby, if I was to look this up?
So this more information, it's hyperlinked to that exact post.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. I try to incorporate as many of the hyperlinks as I could so that you don't have to worry about where is the information. Supplemental, I spoke about that, so I'm not going to say. So I also talked about that. ECFMG certification, you can certainly go through that. We talked about MSPE.
Thinking of a lot of people are curious about this actually. How well does your GPA, medical school GPA, fit into residency?
Dr. Hamza, your medical school GPA, obviously if it's good, it'll help you. It's not that it would hurt you. But what would be more important would be your steps and then your MSPE. So obviously your MSPE will mention your GPA, but also your clinicals. It'll mention your performance in your clinicals.
Right. So let's say you're having like a decent, like not bad, but a decent GPA, but not like a 3.5 or a 4.0. That it's not the end of the world, right?
Guys, I will tell you, I worked with applicants who had multiple attempts on steps, and it was still not the end of the world. They still got interview invites. So if it gives you some insight, just make sure you keep moving forward. Something happens, bounce back. Don't sit on it. Don't just live in the past. God forbid you have something in your school that happened. A lot of people go through personal family concerns. Just make sure you come on the end stronger, and then keep on moving forward. This is what I would say briefly.
All right. So LOR, Dr. Tabby, can you tell us a little bit about that? It's a very interesting topic.
Big topic, but let's try to make it smaller for the sake of time.
Very big topic.
Ask early and make sure, I mentioned here, it's better to get an LOR from someone who can personalize it for you rather than someone who comes from a big university name, but it's vague.
Right.
Please keep that in mind. I know when it's time for LORs, we're just under the pressure, like maybe your big university name will help me. But a lot of the programs are now actually doing a holistic approach of your application. So they won't go through and read every single letter. Make sure if you can get it more structured to you, speaking more about you, then that's better.
So we had a question since we're on the topic of this. Do LORs outside of the US count?
Yes. Again, anything done in the US is better for you, but if it's outside of the US, that's perfectly fine. As long as they can speak about your clinical acumen, they can speak about your personality, your traits, your professional traits, it still counts.
All right.
Any other questions on LORs?
Not that I can see. I think that's what they're mostly concerned about is should I be getting an LOR? Like as an international student, sometimes it's hard to travel. Sometimes visas get put in, uh, especially if you're an IMG that is not a US IMG. So it becomes a little bit difficult for them. But in your opinion, and in my opinion too, even LORs from like outside of the country do help. Just the US factor, it mostly fits into where like it's nice to have a US LOR, but that's basically because when you get into residency, they want to make sure, do you know the system a bit? Do you know how it works here a bit? Like using Epic or, eClinical Works that we've both had very much experience in. So coming from that, like I didn't know what it was until I started doing my electives here, until a doctor took me on rotations and kind of showed me the whole system. So unless you get some exposure to that, it's just like I always say this, like obviously your step exams are there and everything else is just icing on the cake, you know? It's just building up layers. It doesn't hurt you, it's just will help you better. That's it.
Absolutely. Could not agree with that more. So if two priorities that you get out of this presentation, your step scores and your US clinical experience. And with that, first, the professional profile. Dr. Hamda maybe will allow that you can take time off from your school responsibilities to make your professional profile and to get your USMLE ID.
We're only allowing that. Just that.
Just that. Okay. So now that we're clear, we'll stick to that. But those are two very important things for you. For personal statement, don't spend too much time on it right now. When it's time for you to come to application time, just give Resiyay a message, and I will suggest people that I trust and that are not just after your money. So definitely something that personal statements, they can walk you through how to do that.
But could you give us a little like what is a personal statement? Just like 2 sentences if you had to just describe it.
personal statements, just like it sounds, why you apply to residency. It can be a very interesting topic because you're looking at your profile your whole life and you're saying, well, isn't all of this proof that I want to get into residency? But where personal statement kind of really works in your advantage is if you have any gaps in your time, if you have a story, if you have a background that you need to tell people about. You can use your personal statement saying, well, first, this is a little bit about me. This is what brought me to medicine. I would like to talk about this situation, and then why I'm pursuing residency. So everything that you want to do, basically put on a piece of paper, aside from the application.
Right.
It's as if you had to write an essay to get into college. Why do you want to go to college? It's essentially your essay.
You gotta highlight why they want you. Obviously,
Right.
don't go overboard, but be modest enough to show that.
So the REMS drive that I showed earlier has a folder for residency. In that folder, there is some information on personal statement as well. So you can certainly go through that on your own time.
All right. What is this professional picture? What do we have going on here?
So this is a wonderful opportunity for you to just look very nice and well prepared. This picture does need certain dimensions, so keep that in mind. Also, this is the picture that's attached to your ERAS application that programs will receive. Very straightforward professional picture. Definitely spend resources on it. This is not something I would encourage you to go on a cheaper option if your picture quality will not be optimal. But yes, this is something you would attach, just like your transcript. You will attach a picture to your ERAS application for residency.
And should I be smiling in that picture?
So there are very opinions. Guidelines are not an excessive smile. You can smile, but nothing that's excessive. Also, people who are taking these pictures, they know they know the angle that they're supposed to have you at. If they don't, then I have the guidelines attached here, so you can definitely view those.
All right. Okay. I think everyone understood that. Shouldn't be a difficulty of getting a professional picture.
That's probably the easiest part of the application. Just go dress it real nice and go take a nice picture.
Probably. And this is all on ERAS, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All of that stuff. And anything that's in a different color, or if
Mm-hmm.
it's underlined, that's a link.
Right.
So you can directly go on the website.
Right.
And get more information on it. Now, documents that we need. Briefly, we'll talk about CV. Go through your medical journey, your medical school journey. Just start putting together a CV. I'm sure most of us have one. Dr. Hamza, when did you start working on your CV?
Oof. So right after step 2, it was just that's when I started my CV. I think it was like in the middle when I was taking my step 2 as well, like way before then, cuz everything gets put in, cuz mine was a different story. I wanted to work as well. I was applying to elective rotation, so I had to have a CV already there on which I was going to send. But when you're applying for residency, the CV is totally different that I've known of, um, and you can explain more about that. But yeah, mine was way like before step 2.
Okay, that's perfectly fine. So your CV, just like anything, it's gonna have your colleges, it's gonna have your clinical experience. What's more important is just to have the dates. Because when you start your ERAS CV, it's going to ask for all those dates. It's going to ask for a brief description. So if you already have an outline, you can just transfer that data over to ERAS. So it's helpful in organizing what you need to say.
Right. And what I know this is out of the ordinary, but I always get this question: what format do they require? Even though it's listed on the ERAS thing. But like, can you upload it in a Word? Does it have to be PDF?
Yes, you don't upload it. what happens with CVs, they have their own fields that you go through and fill.
Yep.
So if you have your tags on the side, you can just copy paste your tags, or at least have the dates and everything ready. So just transfer it over.
Right. That's good. Another question that I have is that because we're cutting short on time and we're gonna keep going on, but real quick though, a lot of people are confused about letter to the editor versus an LOR. They're two separate things, but could you give a little insight about that?
So help me understand, what is a letter to editor?
So letter to editor is we've always written it when it came to research mostly, right? And LOR has mostly been given when we were sending in, obviously, for a residency application. So they're situated in two different things, two different categories. What they're also trying to say is I think they're also confused about the letter that you send the doctor for elective is way different. All right. And another thing is that when you're doing rotations, right? And when you upload a letter of recommendation, you sign into my eras, right? And then you sign up, it gives you a code, you send the doctor the code, and then they upload it and we waive the right to see, right? So that is something totally different than letter to editor. But since we are off the topic of research, let's move on.
Yeah, so briefly reiterate what you just said. If you're concerned with residency, then it's LOR or MSPE, which comes from your school. No other letters are involved in that. As far as research and how to send that email, if you go back to the first few slides in professionalism, I have a template. It's for purpose, but if you need to send a research email, you can go through that template. Does that answer the question, Dr. Hamza?
That answered my question. Hopefully that answered their question.
Well, we are here to help, so if we have any answers or questions afterwards, you can certainly reach out to Resiyay. Briefly, just to acquaint ourselves, for residency program search engines, these are a few of the free search engines. The paid services are up to you, how you want to go about them. When you need more advice for that, time comes for that, definitely reach out to us. The last bit is, so residency interviews are here, or you're really curious to know how do they happen, what happens. This is embedded into the presentation. It's a different PowerPoint, so you're definitely encouraged to go look through that. At the end, one more letter that we have to concern ourselves with. So we have a lot of letters happening, but then there becomes a letter of intent. This is something you send after you've done interviewing, before the rank order list, before programs will rank you, before you rank them. You send ideally one letter to one program that says you're my top choice, to encourage them to rank you high as well. So that is a letter of intent. And it's definitely bringing us to this.
So letter of intent, help me understand. Is this more as in, okay, you've given your interview, right? And after, is this giving them a reassurance that if they match that rank order, if they select you, then you will be going to that for residency?
Similar. So the letter of intent says, hey, I am ranking you top of my list. So for example, in ideal situation, program ranks you top of their list. The match system will put you guys together. So then you will match into that program.
Okay. All right. Like I've always said, residency is basically Tinder's for doctors, and people are going to quote me on that one day.
In fact, one of my applicants, he came up with this very interesting link, I think, on Reddit that talks about how the algorithm used for the match is very similar to the algorithm used for dating. So
Hey,
You're
they
not
had to
wrong
get
in
it from
that, Dr.
somewhere.
Hamza.
They had to
You're not wrong.
get it from somewhere, right?
You're not wrong in that. They definitely took inspiration. From who? But there was inspiration there.
All right, that brings us to the end of the session, right, Dr. Tabby? Now it's time for. Do you have anything else to give?
We will. It's definitely time for live questions. I think I have exhausted all of the information that I wanted to share, but I would love to hear from everybody what questions they.
All right, let's see. We'll go down the list of the many questions we have. First one. While doing research publications, do we need to keep it relevant to our choice of speciality, or any topic is fine as long as it's published?
That is a wonderful question. It really, unfortunately, it really does depend. What do I mean by that? If you're in internal medicine and you do some research in neurology or pediatrics, family medicine, that can be on the same page. But if you are very interested in a surgery subspecialty, and then a lot of your research is in pediatrics, like not surgery pediatrics, just general pediatrics, then maybe some eyebrows will be raised.
Right, and
But
that is very
research is still
helpful.
research.
Research is research. I mean, it's just another icing on the cake thing, right? If you're applying for internal medicine, why not do a research in that's related to the field if you're going for residency? And speaking of which, I've heard a lot about this, and it has been a question that someone wrote during registration process. Is that let's say I have a research, right? And it's specific to that field, but is there a possibility where you can keep your application broad? Like you have a certain CV and research specific to internal medicine, and you have a specific CV related to general surgery, two of which are totally different. What is your thoughts about that?
So I will comment on how it has been done. Is that we're not encouraging this.
Oh, we
However,
don't encourage anything.
if how it has been done is that if you want to apply to do two different specialties, then yes, you may present specific CVs and personal statements for that specialty. Research, I would encourage you just keep it on the same, like share the same research because it's still experience. So you don't have to make it specific to your CV unless you're really concerned about it, I suppose.
All right. Next question. This is actually something I don't know about, but I would like to know about something called as impact research. What would you like to say about that? Is it necessary? What is impact research?
I'm curious if they're asking about the impact factor for a research.
That
So
could
when
be
you
it.
publish your research, the journal will have a general factor. So this journal, for example, if you publish here, then this is our impact factor. Meaning, if it's a great journal, then you'll have a certain factor number. I'm curious what they mean.
That could be it. I hopefully that answered their question because I have no idea about that. All right. The next thing is, can you tell us more? I think you walked through the process of ECFMG, so we're not going to repeat that. And we've also showed them everything, guys, is listed on the site. It's also very simple. Dr. Tabby has summarized it for us as well. And if you go through the directions properly of what forms to fill, what to submit, everything is written there. ECFMG website has changed a bit. I think the layout is totally different now, but it's the same thing. IWA is still on there. You just have to go under, for physicians, and you're totally there. It'll take you to the same site. The whole just layout just changed. That's it. So no to be confused about that. All right, next question. You've also talked home country electives. How much do you think your home country electives count for a match?
those are fun questions. I wish I had taken that coffee in the morning. What I would
Now
say
you
is
see
that
why I need my coffee.
you were wiser than me. What I would say, guys, about that is clinical experience is clinical experience. So if you are doing electives in home country, that's your only option, then clearly that's your only option. But make sure when you're doing those electives, if you can get those electives at any of the ACME accredited institutions in Pakistan. I know there's a couple, at least in Awama.
Yes.
So I have some
Right.
candidates from that institution. That looks very, very well on your application. I understand. Even if that's not a possibility, you just do the best that you can where you are at. Because if you do a good job, it's going to reflect in your LORs. And importantly, it's going to reflect in your clinical practice when you do come to the US.
Right. I'll see. All right. Moving on. I think that answered that question. This is actually pretty question, and I get asked about this a lot. It's like, so it's relating electives though, but is observerships rated the same scale as electives if you weren't able to do electives in med school as an IMG?
The thing is still US clinical experience. So if you can get your hands on an observership, what is an observership for those that were not sure? If you're currently in medical school and any clinical experience you get can count as an elective. If you have graduated and you get clinical experience, that's generally for IMGs under observership, where you have less experience with the patient. However, I will say, if your clinical skills are up to par, and if you understand how to present patients, like we spoke about the SOAP note format earlier, then a lot of attendings will hand over the responsibility of seeing patients. So you can kind of start with an observership, but kind of work it into a hands-on experience. It's not a guarantee, but if you work on your skills. But going back to your question, there isn't any necessarily how is it going to be graded this way or that way. It's still US clinical experience, and it's still going to speak strongly for you.
Right. Any experience that you get even in the US really counts. Like I said, icing on the cake. It's not gonna bring your CV down. It's not gonna hurt it. All it's gonna do is just boost it up. So if you're unfortunate and you couldn't, like, not unfortunate, but if you couldn't get in electives, that's okay. It's easily understandable. Obviously, try to get electives in your home country if you weren't able to get visa, but observerships count as the same way. In my opinion, people still have gotten residency even when they still did observerships, you know? And
So this is similar.
Yeah, go ahead.
Please go ahead.
No, you're go ahead.
I was going to say, so this is basically, if there were a rank system, it would be, so you do electives. If you can't do electives, you do observerships. If you can't do observerships, do telerotations. Do something that says, I know the US clinical system.
And relating to that is, how important is it for, like, if you have a gap year on your CV?
How long is this year? Is it 1 year or is it longer?
How long is what?
How long is that gap? Is it just 1 year or is it longer than 1 year?
1 year. What would be the ideal gap year? Should you even have a gap year after you graduate?
Dr. Hamza, every applicant is unique in that. So if you feel like, the first advice I would give is, if you feel like there are some concerns about your application, definitely hire or speak to a professional. You're welcome to come to the Resiyay platform, but you're also welcome to go to other people. Residency interviews are not something to be taken. If you do need help on how to address that gap, get the help that you need. Now, answering how went to a gap, this or gap, I have people who are applying, they graduated in 2002. They still got interviews. But it's how you can explain that gap in your personal statement. There's also a portion in your ERAS application. How can you explain that? And what did you do after that gap? That matters more than the gap itself.
Right. And speaking of which, is that I've known people who've got in residency like after their fourth time, you know. They kept applying, they got it after, but the thing is they always kept doing something medically related or clinical related. And it's okay if you have, you know, a little gap year on that, but how you cover it, you know, after that, you're good. I've had people who've had residency even with a little gap in their resume, right? It's just like, I think I may be wrong, is that if they do see that, they might ask you about it during your interview.
It all depends. Yes, is it fair game? It is fair game. Anything that's on your application, on your CV, is fair game.
Right. And when you're giving that interview, you might need to explain, you know, what was going on. So obviously you're interviewing for a job, right? Residency is a job. You're gonna learn a lot in residency, but you're also getting paid for it too. So when they're hiring you, they also have to think about why should they hire you? That's their main question. What do you have to offer for their university or for their standards that they have put up?
Mhm. I'm glad you bring that up because, in fact, some of the most popular questions, some of the standards questions, can also be, how do I know you're going to work at my program? What do you bring to the program? Or we've had a lot of competent applicants this year. Why should we pick you? So you certainly have to be ready for questions like that. That's where you practice comes in. Um, I also have some resources on my website. I have standardized questions that you can go and practice even at this stage in your life. They're there. They're there for you to use if you need to familiarize yourself with those.
Right. And all right, let's try to wrap this up with one more question. This is for people that have been doubtful or, you know, kind of depressed when they don't match. So what happens if you don't match to your choice of speciality, not even prelim? What should you be doing then?
You should be seeking proper guidance. I would start with that. You need to talk to someone who can help you in that pathway. But general, because I don't know your application, I don't know your background, you need to show growth. So do more clinical experience, do more research. If step 3 has not been completed, if you're an IMG, especially if you're not non-US IMG, step 3 is very big. That basically solidifies your USMLE journey. And it tells the program, okay, this person, I don't have to worry about them failing or passing step 3. So definitely make sure you do that.
Yeah, and that wraps it up. Guys, if you want to. Okay. One more question. Sorry, Dr. Tabby. Let's answer this one. Can we switch specialities like from internal medicine to general surgery? I guess they're asking after they've gotten residency. Is it possible for a switch?
Um, so to answer that, you really see if you need to switch specialties, there's 3 different types of first positions. There's categorical, which means you've chosen the program, you're going to be in that program the whole time. There's a year, prelim, you do a year and something, and there's a possibility to switch. And there's transitional year. That's usually done for advanced programs like radiology, some of the other programs. And you do an intern year, and then you transition to the advanced program. But to answer your question, if you want to switch from internal medicine, which is a non-surgical specialty, to a surgery specialty, it would require probably some special circumstances. But without knowing your application, it's very difficult for me to comment on that.
All right, let's wrap it up. Thank you for joining us. For those who are still with us, you're always welcome. As Dr. Tabby said, if you want to have a mock interview, you can always check our website off that we have listed in our link, Resiyay. And you can always contact Resiyay directly. I don't know about Dr. Tabby, but always go through that. Check it out for mock interviews. She has posted it down below in the comment section. We have posted it in the Facebook group as well, and we will post it on Instagram as well. Keep following us at Excemy Medical for more of these sessions. And despite that, I just have one more announcement that is very exciting, actually. So, Excemy Medical is going to be starting there's been a lot of plans going on, and I have not been around recently, been busy and all that. But in January, we will be releasing Excemy Medical US branch. More information about that will be released soon. A link will be also posted on which you can follow it directly. It will be mostly related about USMLE residency. All right, so for AMGs, American medical graduates, for IMGs that want to give the USMLE Step exams, then you can always go through that platform. It will be launched in January again. But thank you for following us. Keep following us at Excemy Medical. Keep following us at Resiyay. We will see you next time. Thank you. Goodbye. And hope you guys have, happy holidays, great weekend. It is a Saturday, but we're still here. Dr. Tabby and me are here on a Saturday giving information.
Happy to see you guys. So happy to see you.
All right, guys. See you. Bye bye. And we'll see you next time.